You know, you talk about a man being before their time, a man before his time. Well, Ed was a person before everybody's time.
Ed came to Oregon in the late 1960s. At that point, the timber industry and wood products industry was king in this state and just dominant in terms of the economy. And Ed saw something that was different. He looked into the future and recognized that Oregon's natural environment was going to be a huge economic asset.
Ed could see that Oregon was going through a dramatic change and that we needed to think boldly about what it was going to take to move from one economy to another.
From policy decisions at the statewide level to approaches on a project that might have wide-reaching implications, I think he brought vision to projects and to conversations that wouldn't have existed without him.
Ed saw a gap between a lot of academic findings coming out and government public policy, and he wanted to fill that gap.
As a visionary, I think he had an idea of what he wanted to do with the firm, and it was always really clear and in the motto, which is we were going to essentially apply the principles of microeconomics to the world of public policy.
I think ECO really was a visionary organization in the sense that ECO has become the preeminent economic consultant in the Northwest.
That's what it has become. It went from Ed's basement, some crazy idea about how we do growth better, to how do we keep this region thriving, to wait a minute, there's a lot going on. How do we take the ideas that work here and write them big for the larger world?
The timber industry was sort of the economic foundation of the way people thought about Oregon. When the spotted owl crisis occurred and to begin to affect the economy in the way that it did, because that owl nested in those old growth timbers, the owl was an indicator species of the lack of health in our major forests in Oregon. And nobody could see that spotted owl that way, or almost nobody.
What's complicated though is it the spotted owl, or is it clean streams, or is it forested mountains, or the 491 other species? And the answer is it's probably a lot of those things. And we don't really understand that mechanism, but it seems to be pretty strong.
You wanted to listen to him and you wanted to hear the story about what he was telling you. That, I think, was his real gift, certainly as an expert witness, but also as a professor at the university.
I think Ed was a master of sort of value-added teaching. Every student comes to the classroom with a different set of skills and knowledge, and Ed had an uncanny way of lifting everyone up, bringing everyone to a better place in terms of knowledge as well as more refined skills.
In my interactions with him, he was really more about making an impact on the people that he was actually interacting with. So he loved teaching. He constructed his classes so that they were really accessible and also really difficult. And it was really had the designed purpose to extract maximum work and maximum learning from all of his students across the whole spectrum.
Ed had the total package. He had the enthusiasm, he had the theatrics, he had the big persona that could pull off these unusual teaching techniques. And I'm not sure anyone else could have done the way he did it.
I took 6 courses from Ed Whitelaw as part of getting my graduate degree. He was the best professor I had in my undergraduate and graduate career.
His office was probably looked like the inside of his head.
Ed's way of filing was to send a note to Helen. That's how it was taken care of.
We had more organizational systems than you can imagine. We would change them every year just to keep him engaged with whatever the new system was. Completely impossible to contain.
He had an ugly Barcalounger in there, and he did a surprising amount of work reclining in that chair. Books everywhere. He had ugly ties hanging from the bookcases.
He had a huge closet full of ties, even though he hated them and thought they were stupid. And he just loved, I think he loved to make that joke over and over and over again.
I don't think Ed cared about clothes. So I don't know who dressed him. Presumably he dressed himself.
Ed had a Harrison Ford cowboy hat, and Ed had a Superman belt buckle and a worn out belt. And even on the stand, he would wear the Superman belt buckle.
He, I think, had the humility to know that he wasn't the expert, and he did not like the word expert to refer to himself. He would turn quickly to people that he thought might have good insights.
He relied on his extensive connections with academics all around, and he relied on the work and opinions of the people in the firm that he created, ECONorthwest.
Working with Ed was a joy. It was always fun. He would call me at odd hours with odd ideas, and we would just keep pressing. So
there were long hours and a lot of hard work, but he kept it fun and interesting and honest and really fulfilling.
I feel really fortunate, lucky to have worked with Ed Whitelaw. I'm so thankful he hired me. He provided me with an incredibly interesting, fulfilling career, working on projects that mattered to people.
I loved Ed. You know, he was a mentor and really directed my whole professional career.
In the beginning, it was like, this is so much fun. And then for years, it was like, why the hell am I still doing this? And then it was like, you know, we're wearing white hats. Every day you walked in, you felt like you were making the world a better place, and he may have been off the wall on any given day, but you also knew you were making things better, and that mattered so much.
He would be proud of the values of ECONorthwest: independence, insight, collaboration, curiosity, and impact. And while sort of the topical focus may change over time, Ed would recognize the core values of this company. I think he'd be very proud of seeing the work that the company's produced.
He created that firm, and that's a remarkable legacy, really.
Well, Ed's most lasting legacy, if we have had families, your most lasting legacy is your children. I have no doubt that that's what Ed would say. If you're talking about a professional legacy, Ed's children are the students that are spread out across the land.
His legacy was people. His legacy was all the people that he tutored, taught, employed, cared about.
Ed was a thinker. He was a comic. He was as human as any man I ever knew. And he changed the face of this state, and I think predominantly and long term, the face of America.